Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Thank you for tuning in or clicking or whatever the kids are calling it these days. Um, I am Nothin. Sucks to be me, because I have to explain shit you've never heard about before. Just pretend it was hieroglyphs, because let's just say I've had a whole lot of lifetimes where I was illiterate. Not many people seem to realize that. Picture page is picture page. Okay. So, today we're going to have coffee and some more light conversation. In fact, we're going to have the very lightest of conversation. Somewhere in this story, I think that's where light comes from, actually. Ah, I just got done failing to make another video with my car. I don't have a decent mount for a camera. I just don't. I need to face this fact and bust out the duct tape. Oh yeah, that's gonna leave a mark. So there's a lot I want to tell people, humans in particular, about the past. And it's really hard for me to know where to begin, because I want to start from what happened 6 years ago and all the current day just bullshit that's out there and work my way backwards. But that would take a long time. And I have been tempted in previous videos, obviously, to jump to the middle of something and explain one aspect of reality as it is today through. See, I don't want to make specific references, because you're better off with vague references. You're better off seeing how many different opinions there are out there, because in doing so, you'd be prepping yourself for some of the big reveal type information that I have planned for the future. And, well, if you're wondering why I pause so much, I'm not struggling with things to say. It's that I have too many things to say, and I have to decide in real time, because I'm still not fucking using notes. I have to decide in real time what is appropriate to reveal given the current level of human knowledge base. To that effect, I think the following topics will be, I don't know, not necessarily light enough, but basic enough. Light. Light. Humans think they understand light. That's adorable. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is an aspect of light that can be measured in a similar way to the electromagnetism that occurs in material objects. But light has some other properties that, well, you can't see, because you can't look at light. Okay. So, I'm jumping to the middle here, just because, light conversation. It's a pun, and I'm trying to amuse myself with the pun. It's not going very well, clearly. I'm going to take the Mad Hatter's advice. I'm going to start from the beginning. Hopefully, I I have enough RAM to get to the end so I can stop. No, not going to happen. We'd be sitting here for 42 years of just me talking, just talking. And that's what it would take for me to fully explain a scientific report on my existence, okay? But since I have no intention of doing that, and to do so would be useless and technically endangering free will in a very arbitrary and boring way, there's much more exciting ways to endanger free will. Let me just tell a little story. And it's about something that people take for granted that doesn't exist. And now, atheists, I know you're all just not believing a damn thing. I'm sure you think I'm nuts. It's very logical to think that I'm a crazy person. I understand this. I think that I'm a crazy person. But then again, if I was me, I would still think I was a crazy person. Because to be me is to be a crazy person. So, the topic is both the books that modern people know, but the real interesting subject are the actual gods, my kids, they represent. Now, there were two that I remember who might be the ones we're looking at here. Let me just explain the way I perceive things, if you will. Perceive things. I enjoy what I call the game I set before myself. Okay? And I don't mean to make light of a human experience, but it is productive in some ways to think of it that way, like that. That is, each character has rules that it sets upon itself. You set it upon yourself with God's agreement. I set it upon myself with my Father's agreement. Actually, this time around, I set it upon myself with a different chairkeeper, but that's kind of a complicated story. I was just trying to speak in references that humans understand, which is fucking complicated for me. It just is. So polytheism is what most people think of when I say gods. And as soon as you think polytheism, you think, oh yeah, those silly people whose gods we named the planets for, and those other people that had the same names and the same gods. And the fact that that all happens at once kind of turns your brain off, because it's like you ask a question that is so hard to answer, your brain doesn't even verbalize it as a sentence framed thought. The question is, why did they have the same gods in those two places? And then what you learn later on in your life, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and were interested in the internet and online research and different opinions on things from like your teenage years, you may have noticed that, well, it's not just in these two places, it's a lot of different places. And there's an obvious way to analyze that pattern. It's that all religions are full of shit. But there's another way to analyze that pattern, which, let me just put it this way, it makes your game more fun. Okay? Makes it more interesting, makes it productive. It makes it more productive. It gives you more rules to challenge your spirit with, thereby to do the opposite is essentially using cheat codes. Savvy? Well, tried to keep a dialogue going and a cigarette lit at the same time, but sorry, it kind of helps me gather my thoughts once I get on a little tangent. Me? A tangent? Okay, so best guess, because, like I said, rules for me. Hold that thought. Tangent. See if I can find a cosine and a sine to add to that. Okay. The way I perceive things before I get off on some easily debunkable without this perspective explanation of something. The way I perceive things is like this. I'm on a mission, kind of a mission right now, to do what I think people should do. But what demons have hid from every one of you, is that, oh, I got a demon trying to hide it from me right now. Oh God, I'm actually gonna have to back this up, and I don't even know what to do now. I'm okay. Let me discuss something else right quick. Tangent. When you're looking for the truth, you will have electromagnetic, subspace, even subspace signals trying to cancel out your thoughts. Even militaries these days have researched into these things. Well, demons have been doing them for years. In fact, demons have indirectly, possibly directly, taught militaries how to do this. Ain't no white band pointing their shit at me right now, that's for sure. But what I was just trying to talk about is really deep, and I can feel it right now. I'm usually very good at gathering a thought that I had just let go of. But what I've noticed in my analysis as my walk as a man, in my walk as a man, and I was stuttering because I was realizing that's kind of what I was talking about, is that if you get in a, especially as a Christian, if you get in a topical analysis debate and you forget what you're saying, if you take a moment to analyze what you forgot tactically, you might find that, something would have benefited from keeping me from pushing that thought. And you see this all the time when Christians get interviewed on television. Oh man, they're surrounded by demons. And other Christians watch, and it's painful because it's like, wait, say this. Oh, it's right. But it doesn't come. What humans don't realize is that free will depends on God following, if you will, a certain psychological profile. And to ask people to do what God would do would be kind of prickish. For God to incarnate himself and have God powers that somehow gave him an advantage in resisting sin, what would it have accomplished but for God to prove that he's better than us? What would it have accomplished but to say, no, you really can't be like this. You have an excuse not to be like this because you're only human. The fact of the matter is, when God comes here, I don't even know if I should be quoting that, but there are certain things that I don't want to divulge just yet, as horrible of a job as I'm doing of it. I think I should delete this because of the memory lapse thing, but it wound up teaching a lesson, and I'm sure it's gonna give more people fodder to claim that I'm crazy, but I don't really give a fuck. It's something that most people don't think about, and so is this. This is the thing that most people don't know, that don't think about. Humans are just unaware of this. Free will depends on God when he enters into this world taking a human form. Let me put it this way. If, say, you saw what some interpretations of Revelation think that you're going to see these days, a man just glowing and magical and riding in the clouds with like armies of angels, and just everyone who saw him would just immediately drop to their knees. That is what you call ending free will. To end free will would not quite be to acknowledge a mistake, because there are some good reasons for ending free will. Something I've considered a lot. But it's cruel. It's a cruel idea. And I don't really know how it's been attributed so blithely over the years. Just a blanket assertion that Christ is going to return, and Christ is a reference to a past event. Okay. So Christ is going to return. God is going to return in human form, and he is going to come as a thief. He could have said, I'd come as a beggar, but he wanted you to understand that lowly experiences, not almighty pretension, are the method by which God enables free will and fairly judges his children. And children you are, all of you. I mean, even the demons who I am trying to inform people about, they are children. And it is not for humans to understand why they will not be forgiven in this thing that you perceive as an end. To tell you another thing humans don't know is that the world was already destroyed just a couple years ago and recreated in an instant. And in fact, it was moved back and forth in time several times in order to rearrange things without disturbing them. And the universe that you think you're in right now, Toto, you're not in Kansas anymore. Grow up. Wake up. And stop thinking the sun comes up. So, to get back to the premise before the tangent, polytheism, leadership, polytheism. Shout out to my SG1 Atlantis fans. If you haven't watched Stargate Atlantis or Stargate SG1, all of it, just go watch it. Watch Battlestar Galactica 2 while you're at it. Because they build character. There's not a lot of TV series that are really involving that still build character. Stargate SG1, man. You can be a ufologist watching Stargate SG1 and still be proud to be an American. You know, it's cool. America, yeah. Because, you know, all that shit's real, right? With the other planets and stuff. If you believe NASA, you might as well believe that shit. So, leadership. I mean, Polly want a cracker? Polytheism. The books that you have, date back to the beginning of the universe. Okay? They are not printed on the date that people understand that they're printed in. They were not compiled at one time. That's well known. But the oldest known compilation date is still just a crock. To explain the time before time, which I need to explain before I explain who's responsible for those books, you need to understand that the beginning of the universe wasn't a physical creation. It was a conceptual creation. It wasn't about space and time. It was about concepts and ideas, merits and demerits, truth and deceit, chaos and logic. In the beginning, there were two that are best referenced as the star-crossed lovers. Before the beginning, there was Almighty God contemplating through infinite possibilities to calculate the exact universe which would best create a family for God, not subjects, not slaves, not beasts of burden, a family. You are children of God, all of you. I mean all of you. Even those who try to deceive the others, who are children of God, you need to behave. Well, among the first concepts created was love and perception. Because in order to allow for the current construct of creation, there needed to be a couple that could submerge themselves, emerge themselves, kind of both, paper or plastic, yes, into reality, relying only on each other's love to confirm the source of their enlightenment and thus give them a more pure route to true enlightenment than other humans can experience without completing their journey. And if you complete your journey, you're not here. Unless you're aware of it and you came here for a reason, of course. But, excuse me. If you complete your journey, you're a star. And, the metaphysics of things beyond this atmosphere is a whole different thing to discuss. But that little riddle right there can give you an answer, or at least a possibility, to why we name the stars and planets the way we do. So, I'm trying to keep this third person here. The first thing in conceptual reality, that is, once the time before time and times began, that is, once more than these two split, unified spirit. That's what it was. It was a splitting of a unified spirit to form a symbiotic pairing. The star-crossed lovers are. It's kind of hard to explain unless you're like a Bleach fan. Lilineto, kind of. Basically, God is so powerful that he'd have to at least divide himself in two just to get started. Otherwise, people would see God and know he was God, and they would be slaves. If you saw God and knew that it was God, whatever that person, that being, said to you would be written into your brain as law. And you would know there would be consequences to the very existence of your soul. So knowing somebody is God is against the rules. And I ain't trying to dish out cheat codes here, but this understanding is going to be very valuable if you hope to have a clue about any fucking thing I'm talking about. Okay? So, Gabriel, the first created being. You might, in some texts, see him referred to as the Father, because he is essentially the omnipotent power of God that the star-crossed lovers, the conscious power, the interactive power of God, put before themselves to play the pre-temporal games, if you will, that led to the current reality, the current rules, the current faiths, the current pretty much everything, in ways that humans simply don't. You're blameless for this. You have no way to understand this. You have no way to even know this happened. Okay? So, Gabriel participated in some realities that the next beings aren't aware of. And the next beings include lust, which is the whore of Babylon, Hathor; deception, which is Mars, the god of war; and then you have pride, which is say Horus the Younger, Saint Peter, the false Christ that lived 2,000 years ago that people don't seem to know about? Let's see. Angel of Light, Lucifer, pride, deceptive religion, self-righteousness, deception's younger brother, Mars's younger brother. Now, while there is obviously enmity concerning humans, I like these guys. They're my kids. And one was cast down, the other one fell. One red, one glowed as the sun. I know them really well. We grew up together in a place that would be best described as Neverland. We were all kids for thousands of years. I know how silly that sounds. But you know what? I like how silly that sounds. So, fuck off. So, Hathor, also known as Lilith. Starting to go down a road I don't want to show these yet. But, say a long story short, girl had an attitude problem, okay? And when she realized she wasn't going to get her way here, well, relatively here-ish, she decided she was going to make her own place. That place is kind of like the underworld. Not quite. It's what some people call Arcadia. It's an alternate dimension. She wasn't really aware of the rules from the time before she existed, though. So while her plan up until about May of 2011 was going very well, it was ultimately doomed for failure. But while casting the boys back up to the house, took care of her, the boys in her have kids of their own. And they're proven to be quite a pain in the ass. 33 minutes and 50 seconds. I'm going to have to cut this one short soon. I'm not even sure if I'm going to post this. I might just do it just so people can understand how hard this is. How much my job sucks. I'm not getting killed this time. Because that would be a fucking disaster. Not for me. For me, be any old fucking day. But for humanity, disaster. Long story short, Hathor usurped every ancient temple of Mother Nature, who was the feminine side of the star-crossed lovers, who was the feminine side of creation. And what people don't understand about male-dominated sexism is that it was Hathor's doing. Because just picture who the Whore of Babylon might be if she existed. Just for a second, okay? I know I haven't bothered with the picture God if he existed thing yet. I think I should make a video about that soon. Picture the Whore of Babylon if she existed. What would lust incarnate want? She would want to be incomparable. She would want to have the want of every man and woman. She would want to be the only woman that was allowed a voice, the only woman that men were allowed to desire. That's why most ancient pornography are sculptures of her. That's why to be well made up today is to paint your face basically the way she did. Now, at this point, most people would expect me to say something silly like, let those who have ears hear. One thing you don't understand is that that was a specific reference to an old law. And that's that certain levels of enlightened teaching aren't for the general public. And what I meant by that was that it should be. Anybody who's got an ear should be allowed to hear this. It shouldn't be kept secret. It's not some esoteric knowledge that only if you're the chosen person, the chosen faith, the chosen whatever you think you're chosen for. It's just not that. None of you are better than anyone else. Not angels and demons are not better than humans. Humans are not better than angels and demons. Black people aren't better than white people. White people aren't better than black people. Jews aren't better than everybody else because God said so. Jews were chosen for a reason. Semantics fucking piss me off. There's really, okay, to say no such thing as a Jew is kind of silly, but there's no such thing as a Jew. Not in the ancient context in which I refer to them. And when I say Jew, it's because of programming from my life as a human this lifetime. I went through it just the same as everybody else. Okay. And like I said, I'm here to live by the same rules all of you do and somehow fight my way through this fucking blanket of deception that was once called reality. Covered the usurping Mother Nature. There apparently was one temple somewhere in Tibet that told the story of Callisto the Usurper and how what is known through most cultures. I mean, this one temple tells a story about how all of the different temples of Mother Nature in that area and in other areas were basically recarved. The statues destroyed or replaced or modified. The writings rubbed out or written over. There's evidence of this too, especially in Egypt. 38 fucking minutes. I know what I'm saying is really fascinating here, but I'm kind of getting to the limits on each subject of what I can currently explain. I'm gonna watch this video and hopefully if there's anything I left uncovered in my initial premise. Oh, wait, no, I just thought of something. Fucking shit I'm gonna write at the top. Jeez, this is gonna wind up being a long video, isn't it? Sorry about this. Again, human. So you have the Talmud. To me, based on the personality, it's the jester. Okay. The Quran, to me, is based on the warrior. The Kabbalah is pride. The Talmud's kind of like pride too. But you see, that involves a story with Hathor and Gabriel, as he was called, of course, the elder in the closest remaining story of it. And a confusion of identities because of a trick that had to be played on Hathor so she wouldn't take over the fucking world, basically. Because, let's just say, there were many things that had to come close to taking over the world in order for free will to be maintained, because God is that powerful. And, well, bores easily. So the jester, I remember, oh, it must have been, and it's hard to put this in known historical time frame, because it could have been 1,000 years ago, it could have been 5,000 years ago, it could have been 4,000 years ago. Met him up in the mountains one time when I was just realizing who I was. And old black guy, I guess you could say he was black. Had kind of a I don't want to say marble, like a changing texture, changing color, changing reflective level to his skin. Anyway, in his spirit, he's a black guy. And man, during this lifetime, it was revealed to me the value of a sense of humor, the value of letting go of logic by obtaining it. And he taught me that there's really no escaping the plan of Almighty God. And that to lose hope is to lose sight of God himself, itself. So that there's really no point in losing hope. Stop telling yourself you're not angry at God when you do so. To lose hope is kind of to lose faith. It's usually because there's something you're mad about that can't be helped. You're indirectly mad at God. Just like all the people who are pissed at me right now for saying what I'm saying. Same story, different lifetime. So I'm going to cover that in more detail. But the jester was the old wise one. And while he has played the devil for amusement purposes only, um, there's nothing really evil. There's nothing really evil about any of this. Okay? Evil is in action. Evil is in deed. The god of war, apparently incarnated, I think, as the Prophet Muhammad. Wasn't the first time he's incarnated. Wasn't the last either. Pretty sure he's incarnated in Vladimir Putin right now. Understand this, you have to understand that war is about deception, and it's a brother of pride, brother of self-righteousness. Pride, about self-righteousness, but is a brother of deception, because to be prideful, you have to deceive yourself. I think I've said enough. I 45 fucking minute video. If you have actually watched this gigantic, obscenely long, horrible video, first, I must apologize, because it must have been torture. Hope you had a few good laughs at my expense. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And please click the little like button, because it'll help more people see that they can make fun of me. Oh.